Part 47. Heaven-Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 462. /U0026 NWU felt some pressure standing in front of the two supremes of Yanhuang Emperor City, with Lupin behind him. /U0026 N took a deep breath. /U0026 N Lupin did not hide her identity as a dragon, so Wu Yu told the story to Yanhuang City Lord and Emperor. /U0026 N finally, he said, "You two don't need to be nervous. The devouring demon ancestor had long since disappeared in the devouring demon mansion, and there is nothing left. She just took away her dragon family's things, which can be regarded as returning the things to the original owner." /U0026 N while telling the story, Wu Yu concealed the news of the egg he got, but he did tell the story of Qin Fuwei. At this time, Wu Yu didn't know whether Qin Fuwei was still in Yanhuang Emperor City after she came out. /U0026 NBU said, "Qin Fuwei is an undercover ghost cultivator," Emperor asked with a puzzled look. /U0026 NB That's right. She trapped us inside, and when she left, she told me her name was Tianhai Yufu. /U0026 N Yanhuang City Lord and the Emperor looked at each other, and the City Lord said, "This should be correct. Qin Fuhua disappeared a few days ago. We sent a lot of people, but we couldn't find her. I guess she returned to the Yanhuang Palace in the Four Islands of Dongyang." /U0026 N Sure enough, Qin Fuhua wouldn't stay here for too long. /U0026 NB She left quickly. /U0026 N However, Wu Yu still felt a little strange. Qin Fuhua must have thought that they couldn't get out, so why did she run away so alertly? Could it be that her undercover mission had been completed? /U0026 NB Let's not talk about Qin Fuwei for now. Lupin, although you are a fairy beast and a dragon, you did not ask us two brothers about it. You used means to break into the Yanhuang ancient well, and even forced your way into the most important devouring heaven demon mansion guarded by our era. No matter what your purpose is, such behavior is also challenging the bottom line of our Yanhuang imperial city. Do you think that our brothers are willing to let you leave like this?" The Emperor's voice was cold, and his deep black eyes stared at Lupin. /U0026 NWU hurriedly said, "Please forgive me, the situation is special, Lupin's life is at stake, she knows that you will never risk letting her enter the heaven-devouring demon mansion, so she took the risk to try, but at least nothing has happened now, right? The heaven-devouring demon ancestor that you guarded in the heaven-devouring demon mansion has long been extinct for countless years." /U0026 N Yanhuang Emperor City was built to guard the heaven-devouring demon mansion. Lupin knew that although she was a fairy beast, it was impossible for Yanhuang City Lord and Emperor Marshal to help her enter the heaven-devouring demon mansion to find the original dragon scale. /U0026 NB Wu Yu, you are from my Yanhuang Emperor City, you shouldn't be on her side at this time. Emperor Marshal looked at Wu Yu with burning eyes. /U0026 N Wu Yu was fearless and shook his head, saying, "General De, you have a point, but she is my friend. Seeing her in the test of life and death, I can only help her. Now everything is fine, and I hope you two can let it go. After all, it is better to resolve a feud than to create one. I think if you two don't make it difficult today, she will be grateful to you, right?" /U0026 And seeing Wu Yu fighting for herself like this, Luo Bin nodded and said, "You two, I am abrupt about this matter. Luo Bin apologizes to you too. If you need help in the future, you can come to me. She used a favor as a trade-off." /U0026 N In fact, it was because Wu Yu would still be here in the future, and she didn't want Wu Yu to be caught in the middle. /U0026 Nth Emperor and the Lord of Yanhuang City looked at each other and discussed secretly. Finally, the lord of Yanhuang City nodded and said, since nothing happened in the devouring heaven demon mansion, I will not care about the recklessness of the fairy beast. In addition, congratulations to you on your rebirth. As for help, it is not needed. I just hope that you will not come a second time. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, we will not be able to explain to the people of the world. /U0026 and bearing this, Wu Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. /U0026 NB thank you, both of you. Luo Ben took out a few tail talismans and handed them to Wu Yu. This tail talisman was very complicated, and it was estimated that the distance it could be transmitted would be greatly increased. /U0026 NB if we are destined to meet again, she smiled slightly, and her azure eyes were full of tenderness. /U0026 NB I will definitely do it. /U0026 NB it's a pity that I still have a lot of urgent things to do, and I don't have time to see you back to Shushan. Luo Ben apologized. /U0026 NB it's okay. /U0026 NB fairy beast, please the lord of Yanhuang City open the Yanhuang ancient well and let it leave. Luo Ben told them that if they really needed help, they could find her through Wu Yu. /U0026 NB she was now in a hurry to find a quiet place to restore the remaining 80% of her realm. She was still in great danger now. /U0026 and Wu Yu stood there and watched Luo Ben rush to the exit. In the yellow sand, her light blue figure was like a poem and a painting. The beauty gradually disappeared in the wind and sand. At the last moment, she looked back, and her gentle eyes were deeply left in Wu Yu's heart. /U0026 and see you again if we are destined to meet. /U0026 and if we are not destined to meet, then we will never meet again. /U0026 and in the blink of an eye, Luo Ben disappeared. In the ancient city of Yanhuang ancient well, only Wu Yu and the two top figures of Yanhuang Imperial City, the lord of the city and the emperor, were left. Now, the two who sent Lupin away seemed to be in shock. The emperor said, she has only recovered a little. I didn't expect that there are such powerful fairy beasts and dragons in this world. When she really recovers, it will be terrible. /U0026 NB to be injured by the heavenly tribulation, one's realm is already extraordinary, but you and I are far from being able to withstand the test of the heavenly tribulation. There is nothing we can do about her doing this. After all, if she hadn't messed around, we would never have allowed her to enter such a dangerous place as the heaven-devouring demon mansion. Fortunately, nothing happened. /U0026 and seeing that the heaven-devouring demon mansion was closed again, the two of them were actually feeling relieved. /U0026 and they looked at the high platform leading to the heaven-devouring demon mansion, and the emperor said with emotion, in fact, I have long understood that the heaven-devouring demon ancestor died long before the 2UN. We are responsible for guarding here, and there is actually nothing to guard. However, the mission is the mission, and we have to continue until we are ordered to stop stationing. Even if it is just to protect the ruins of the heaven-devouring demon mansion. /U0026 and from their conversation, Wu Yu knew very well that the two of them regarded this as the most important thing, but he didn't know who ordered them to do this, senior. /U0026 and no wonder Yanhuang Emperor City rarely participates in disputes in Shenzhou. /U0026 and after the two of them discussed for a while, they finally looked at Wu Yu. /U0026 NB thank you, Lord of the City, Emperor Marshal, Wu Yu said hurriedly. /U0026 and originally thought that Luo Ben would have a hard time getting through them. /U0026 and Emperor Marshal shook his head and said, don't thank me. In fact, even if she has only recovered a little, we can't get any benefits from this kind of fairy beast and dragon. If she wants to leave now, no one can stop her. U0026 and after hearing this, Wu Yu was shocked. U0026 NB Luo Bin, so powerful, in his imagination, the most exaggerated one is probably about the same as the Lord of Yanhuang City. Wu Yu knew that Yanhuang Emperor City seemed to be far less majestic and domineering than Emperor Martial, and even looked very ordinary, but the title of the first in Shenzhou was basically not a big problem. U0026 and first of the 7 immortals of Shushan, Tianxia Sword Immortal, was far inferior to him. U0026 and hearing Wu Yu say this, the emperor smiled and said, "You have been with her for such a long time, but you don't know that this is a fairy beast. It is much more powerful than the blood of demons. Nowadays, the number of fairy beasts is very rare. If she was in her prime, I would be far from her opponent. Even today, the two of us brothers may not be able to stop her." U0026 Nth Emperor never boosts others' ambitions and destroys his own prestige. U0026 Nth Wu Yu realized that he might have underestimated Luo Bin. Then it would be even more difficult to catch up with her level. How many years will it take for him to see this fairy beast dragon again? U0026 NB Wu Yu, I didn't expect that you have made such great progress in the devouring heaven demon mansion, such a desolate place. It's incredible. The Yanhuang city lord looked at him and said with satisfaction. U0026 Nth Emperor also studied it and said, "Very good. He is the most incredible genius I have seen in these years. In terms of realm, he is very low among the same geniuses, but his purple palace energy is not weaker than the 5th level. Not to mention his physical body. In addition, he seems to have learned a magical power in his eyes. This pair of eyes can even see through me." U0026 and Wu Yu's fiery eyes swept over him inadvertently. Many things on the emperor could not be hidden from Wu Yu's eyes. He could even see the bones, flesh and blood. However, the emperor's strength made him a little difficult to understand. U0026 Nth Lord of Yanhuang City nodded and said, "Qin Fu Hui is a traitor, Lupin is a fairy beast dragon, and now at your age, you have become the strongest person in my Yanhuang Imperial City. For example, Murong Su has been practicing hard for 3 years, but now he is only at the 5th level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, and with the help of the Taoist weapon, he is probably still not your opponent." U0026 and Murong Su failed to enter the city lord's mansion, so General Murong used other methods to forge him, allowing him to make rapid progress. He only recently reached the 5th level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, which is already a top talent in Yanhuang Imperial City. U0026 Nth praise from these two big men made Wu Yu a little flattered. U0026 Nth they did not blame him, but praised him instead. U0026 Nth while the emperor was looking at him with interest, he suddenly realized, "Wu Yu, did I promise you something? I almost forgot about it because you disappeared a few days ago and couldn't keep the appointment. Now that you are back, should I go to Shushan with you to play?" U0026 and fortunately, he remembered. U0026 and Wu Yu nodded. U0026 Nth Emperor laughed and said, "How many days are left?" U0026 NB half a month Wu Yu replied. U0026 NB the time is almost up, you can take it slowly. This is a very important day for you. Now everyone in the world probably thinks you are dead. It is really interesting that you appear now. I am looking forward to your going to Shushan. What consequences or solutions there will be. After all, it is said that your opponent also gained a lot in the Shushan reincarnation cave. U0026 and Baishan Mo. U0026 and now that he is out, Wu Yu is not in a hurry. U0026 and because he has now reached the 2nd level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, but his clones have not yet. Although the time is short now, it does not hinder his determination to raise all the clones to the limit again. \U0026NBBY then, they will be terribly strong. \U003C/C Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 463. There's no rush to go, I still need to prepare a few things, Wu Yu said. He had heard that there were rumors that he was dead or missing across the land of Shenzhou. Now that he had just appeared, the only people who knew about his return were the city lord and the emperor commander. Perhaps, after hearing that I was dead, many people in the Xuanhuan Immortal sect were extremely excited. It's a pity that I didn't die. Not only will I not die, I will also give these people a thrill. We have come this far, so what is there to be anxious about? At this moment, he was very calm in his heart, but in his calmness, blood was rushing. Then you should prepare well. Remember, this time you go to complete your own affairs, but you are also a part of Yanhuang Emperor City. Yanhuang Emperor City will support you at any time. We are different from Xuanhuan. In Yanhuang Emperor City, as long as you are capable, and as long as you are not evil and crooked, we will support you, Emperor Shui said seriously. With him accompanying him, Wu Yu went to Xuanhuan again, and his status would definitely be different. On that day, not only will I go with you, but at least 10 generals from our Yanhuang Emperor City will go with you. You can do what you want to do and settle what you want to settle. With Emperor Shui's words, Wu Yu knew it in his heart. It was obvious that the Emperor's commander valued him very much, especially after he had now widened the gap with Murongsu and the others. It is conceivable that when the time comes at Xuanhuan Immortal Sect, Wu Yu can do whatever he wants and no longer need to worry about it. He also wanted to ask Nangong Wei whether there was still no room for maneuver in that matter at the beginning. Okay, it seems that you can't go to Xuanhuan. Then let's give them a surprise. Just stay here at Yanhuang Ancient Well and wait until the time comes before letting them down. Emperor Shui smiled boldly and said like Hongzhong. Wu Yu stayed here in the ancient city. The city lord did not participate in the matter between them. He returned to the round platform and sat cross-legged here again. The emperor's commander seemed to like Wu Yu more and more. He had heard about Wu Yu's deeds. With his character, he naturally liked Wu Yu, a young man who insisted on principles and even dared to fight against the entire Shu Mountain. In terms of clones, they will always be revealed in the future, so Wu Yu did not hide it. In this ancient city, he took a lot of hair and blew it out. When the golden hair met the wind, it turned into a clone that was exactly like him and scattered. Go, and in the blink of an eye, there are thousands of Wu Yes who are exactly the same, standing neatly in front of Wu Yu, and then sitting neatly on the ground. Wu Yu still had more than 30,000 Kanghai Yuankai pills in his hand. He distributed them one by one, and then asked the clones to start tempering. The clones were neat and orderly, almost like an army. Yanhuang Emperor City was organized by the army, so when they saw Wu Yu's thousands of clones, the Emperor Commander and the City Lord were obviously shocked. The Emperor Commander clicked his tongue in amazement, his eyes flashed, and he walked around Wu Yu's clone. The City Lord was also very shocked. This was the first time Wu Yu saw his surprised expression. Such magical powers are rare in the world. I heard that he obtained the inheritance of a Taoist of transformation. Who is this Taoist of transformation? The Emperor Commander said to the City Lord. The City Lord said, as time goes by, magical cultivators emerge endlessly, most of which cannot be verified. However, Wu Yu's method is unthinkable even for the entire world of Jiangfu. With this method, the second son will dominate Dongsheng Shenzhou in the future. I guess it's not a big problem. The Emperor Shui narrowed his eyes and asked, brother, do you intend to train him to be your successor, and let him take charge of Yanhuang Emperor City when you are tired or unable to hold on anymore? The Lord of Yanhuang City said, let's make a choice. No one knows what will happen in the future. I can only say that you and I are very optimistic about Wu Yu's temperament, but there is also a possibility that his future is limitless. Among the lords of Yanhuang City, I'm afraid he might not pursue it. If so, I will never restrict him. In fact, they had had a lot of discussions in secret. They could still see very clearly the temperaments of Wu Yu, Murongsu, Zhangzhigzun, and Li Kahai. Of course, for them, the top 3 players in the royal war are also good prospects. As they watched, Wu Yu silently asked the clones to hurry up and expand the Zi mansion. All this requires is time and Kanghai Yuan Kai pill. He felt very distressed as he watched the Kanghai Yuan Kai pills on his body getting older and dwindling. The 50,000 Kanghai Yuan Kai pills given to him by Luo Bin were almost used up in the blink of an eye. When all the huge wealth in his body is used up this time, he doesn't know when he will be able to collect enough wealth to continue cultivating clones, and he himself will also need a lot of treasures to strengthen himself. Along the way of cultivating Taoism, wealth and resources become more and more important. On the land of Shenzhou, most of the disputes are actually disputes over monastic resources. Whoever controls the resources controls the road. Powers of this level, such as Yanhuang Emperor City, Shushan Immortal Sect and Shangyuan Daozong, have unlimited resources. Time passes. The inner city of Yanhuang Emperor City has become a lot cooler during this period. Something happened in the inner city in the past few days. It is said that a 100-man squad called the 100 Battle Battalion collectively boycotted its new Centurion and united to beat the Centurion. This incident caused a stir. It's quite funny. It is said that the final solution was that the new Centurion left, and then a Centurion from the Kanghai realm of Zifu was selected from the 100 battle camp. His name seemed to be Fang Kaoken. This Fang Kaoken he also changed the name of his 100-man team back to Kishan camp. This incident alone made people realize that Wu Yu might really be dead. This incident has also spread to Shushan Immortal section. The date agreed between Baishan Mo and Wu Yu was getting closer and closer, and it was only a few days away. Suddenly such a thing happened, and the people of Shushan Immortal sect were dumbfounded. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Even so, before the time came, there were still people surrounding him in the direction of the battlefield of life and death. A few days before the appointed day, tens of thousands of sword cultivators gathered in the battlefield of life and death. There were crowds of people all over the mountains and plains. Sword cultivators in 2s and 3s gathered together and had a lively discussion. I'm telling you, there's no need to come. Don't give up. There is no news about Wu Yu in Yanhuang Emperor City. He can't come to Shushan. Why are you here to join in the fun and drag me along? Really? Who doesn't know, but there is always a possibility in everything. For such a wonderful and big event, what if Wu Yu comes? After all, he is also the number 1 in Yanzhan now, with some titles, and it's still me, the Shushan trader. This is the day he will be judged. If he dares to come, it will definitely be exciting and interesting, so I think that even if there is a slight chance, he should stay here. The sword cultivators looked around, chatting and laughing with each other. Wu Yu, as a traitor to our Shushan mountain, deserves to die, so as not to embarrass our Shushan mountain. However, I still prefer that he can come today. If he dies in Shushan mountain to atone for his sins, that is his highest destination. Whatever he owes to Shushan, this can be regarded as Yaluo's return to his roots. After all, Shushan has trained him, and he has never understood Shushan's kindness to him. Don't talk about repaying it. If Wu Yu is alive and doesn't bring trouble to me in Shushan, that would be great. I also hope that he will come and then be completely defeated and die completely. I will pay back everything I owe to Shushan. It's a pity that he will definitely not be able to come. I don't believe it. In addition, it is said that Baishan Mo and Nangang Wei have made great progress again. This time they defeated many Tianji level disciples. I'm afraid it won't take long. Sword Master no match for them. These two geniuses are really terrifying. We haven't seen geniuses of this level in Xuanhuan for a long time. It is said that the 7 Immortals want to train them to a level comparable to the Lord of Yanhuang City and the Holy Lord of Taizhou. Even surpassing them, when the time comes, with them in charge, our Xuanhuan Immortal sect will sweep across all directions, and we will be number 1 in Unia. How dare the Yanhuang Immortal Army and the Taoist priests of Shangyuan Dao sect be so arrogant in front of our sword cultivators? Yes, especially Baishan Mo, the descendant of the Qingming Sword Emperor, is really terrifying. It is said that the Qingming Sword Emperor is only one step away from becoming an immortal. At that level, he is even more powerful than the current Yanhuang City Lord. Wu Yu's little-known transformation Taoist is a joke. Can he be compared with Qingming Sword Emperor? Although Xuanhuan disciples didn't really think that Wu Yu would arrive, they saw more and more people gathering around the battlefield of life and death, and people continued to gather. The day before the agreed date, hundreds of thousands of people gathered again. Many of them everyone saw that many Tianjian-level disciples were grabbing good positions in the sky, and they heard that whether Wu Yu came or not, Baishan Mo would appear on the battlefield of life and death and wait for him. On the appointed day, the place was packed with people. Everywhere you look there are sword cultivators. It is said that in addition to the sword cultivators practicing outside, at least the sword cultivators in the mortal sword domain and Qingtianshu Mountain have almost all arrived at the scene. There are more Shu Mountain disciples gathered here than last time. In fact, if it weren't for Wu Yu's disappearance, today's there can be more people. Although they may not be able to see Wu Yu, many people feel that it is worthwhile to see characters such as Qiang Sword Immortal, Baishan Mo, and Nangang Wei. Amid the heated discussions and laughter, that day finally arrived. When the morning sun tore through the snow and fog and shone on this world of ice and snow, the entire Shu Mountain lit up. The endless blue sky of Shu Mountain was so high that you couldn't even see the top when you looked up. Baishan Mo, will you come? Many people raised their heads in anticipation. In their hearts, this name is almost the first person to dominate Xuanhuan in the future. In Xuanhuan, there are already many people and no one is worthy of the word headmaster. Even Tianchi Sword Immortal felt that he was not the master, but just one of the 7 immortals. In the sunshine, above the Xuanhuan immortal realm, a black-haired young man with fluttering robes and sword energy descended from the sky. He carried a long sword on his back, his eyes were sharp, and he landed on the battlefield of life and death in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the entire battlefield of life and death trembled. At that moment, the sword cultivators raised their long swords, nearly 1,000,000 magic weapons and long swords pointing to the sky, and 1,000,000 sword energy soared into the sky. Baishan Mo. The next chapter is very important. It's a bit late to write it here today. The madman is not in a good state, so I will continue writing it tomorrow. For the sake of quality, please forgive me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 464. On the battlefield of life and death, millions of sword energy swept forward, penetrated countless vast clouds, and shone in the sky. This is a grand occasion that can only be seen in Xuanhuan, and it is the spiritual will of Xuanhuan sword cultivators. Countless sword energies made deafening whistling sounds, coupled with the roars of the sword cultivators. The snow-filled Xuanhuan suddenly became fiery and intense. All this is to welcome the arrival of Baishan Mo. At this moment, Baishan Mo was welcomed by endless sword energy and landed on the battlefield of life and death. He became famous at a young age and dominated the world. Now under the warm eyes of nearly 1,000,000 people, he is still fearless and even ranks among the kings. Style, standing out from the crowd. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. All around, there were countless fanatical Xuanhuan sword cultivators, shouting his name. Baishan Mo is the pinnacle of all geniuses in Xuanhuan. Most sword cultivators here in Fanjian domain have just crossed the threshold of becoming formal disciples, and are far behind him. After arriving, he remained silent and looked towards the east, which was the direction of Yanhuang Emperor City. Everyone knew who he was waiting for to arrive. I saw that there was a strong murderous intent in his eyes. However, he looked more relaxed than expected. Because he knew that he was just here to fulfill the agreement today. There was no news about Wu Yu so far, let alone that he was setting off from Yanhuang Emperor City. It was obvious that he would not be able to keep the appointment, and judging from Wu Yu's nature, he did not. There is only one possibility to keep the appointment, and that is to die. Therefore, although there is no way to relieve his hatred, the result is still the same. When today is over, it will be even more certain that Wu Yu's death will mean that Sister Nangong will completely give up. If this goes on for a long time, one day, she will be moved by me. As the sixth master said, there is no one in the world who is worthy of Sister Nangong. Just me. Therefore, in addition to fulfilling the agreement today, the most important thing is to confirm Wu Yu's death. In addition to Baishan Mo, some big figures from Xuanhuan have arrived one after another, such as Zinc Sword Master, Suanji Sword Master, Xuanhuan Sword Master, Liwo Sword Master, Red Shadow Sword Master, Dongyu Sword Master, etc. There are more than 10 Sword Master levels appearing in high in the sky. They enjoyed the envious and respectful sight of the Xuanhuan disciples. The last time I saw so many people was the day Wu Yu was tried. 3 or 4 years passed in the blink of an eye. Recalling the scene that day, the sword cultivators felt that it was vivid in their minds. For them, this period of time was just a retreat. They may not have made any progress in 3 or 4 years, but Wu Yu and Baishan Mo have undoubtedly made huge progress. In fact, many sword cultivators knew clearly that Wu Yu would not show up, but they still gathered here just because they wanted to see these big shots. These dozens of heavenly sword-level disciples, more than a dozen Xuanhuan sword masters, and Baishan Mo, the top genius in the divine continent. Even if Wu Yu really appears, it is estimated that many of the 7 immortals of Xuanhuan will appear. After all, I heard that the Emperor Shui had promised Wu Yu to come with him. It was only early in the morning, and the sword masters appeared next to Baishan Mo. Everyone looked relaxed. Baishan Mo, a famous man, could be regarded as respecting his elders. He greeted the sword masters one after another. Maybe it was because Shenzhenjiao and Wu Yu had a good relationship, so he passed by directly. Did not say hello to Shenzhenjiao. The sword masters rushed forward and crowded forward. Looking at them, more than 10 sword masters appeared at the same time, and their momentum alone was enough to suffocate them. Therefore, no one dared to speak. Among them, the Scarlet Shadow Sword Master was the first to laugh and said, "Xiao Mo came so early today, and I was a little anxious." However, in fact, everyone knows what the outcome of today will be. It's a pity that Xiao Mo has been preparing for today for so long, and he didn't expect it. That Wu Yu turned out to be a short-lived ghost who couldn't even make it to the promised date. Dongyu Sword Master said, "The so-called genius, in fact, the most important thing is to survive. Only those who can survive are geniuses and have the potential to continue to improve. But Wu Yu, if he loses his life, he will no longer be qualified, compared with you." Xuanhuan Sword Master said, "Wu Yu deserves to die. As long as he dies, Wei will forget him one day. At that time, we, the golden boy and beautiful girl of Shu Mountain, will definitely be able to get together. Only it's a pity that my little girl." Thinking of Mu Lingch, Sword Master Xuanhuan still felt incomprehensible and resentful. Baishan Mo said quickly, "Don't worry, Sword Master Xuanhuan, I remember everything about Mu Lingch. When the time comes, Sister Nangong and I will definitely use the Wuxian blood qi to settle the accounts with the demon. Blood debts must be paid." Pay with blood. Sword Master Xuanhuan and Sword Master Luo were immediately grateful. They were relaxed and comfortable, completely assuming that Wu Yu was dead. Listening to their conversation, the swordsman cultivators were also relaxed and happy. In fact, when they heard the news that Wu Yu was dead, they knew that they would not be able to fight today and it was just a formality. Just act like the top sect and show that you have waited for Wu Yu. Although today was not exciting, the result was very refreshing. Seeing that Baishan Mo and the others were in a relaxed mood, the sword cultivators also started a heated discussion. It can be said that Wu Yu was just unlucky and died early. Otherwise, when he came here, he would not only be embarrassed, but his death would definitely be even worse. Maybe he committed suicide or went into hiding. I think he was afraid of our Xusan and Baishan Mo. When he was expelled from Xusan, Baishan Mo was ready to kill him. It's better not to hide. I won't believe that he will come out when the limelight is over. By then, he will still have the face to see people. To be honest, if he really hides and doesn't dare to join the war, his reputation will definitely plummet, and our Xusan Nangongwei will be even more disappointed in him and look down on him. To be said to be a match made in heaven, Baishan Mo and Nangongwei are really made for each other. It would be great if Wu Yu didn't come out to interfere. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. On the battlefield of life and death, everyone was smiling, as if they were welcoming the new tomorrow. Baishan Mo and Nangongwei had brought new hope to Wu Yu. Why didn't Wei come today? Shuohua Sword Master asked Baishan Mo. Baishan Mo hesitated and said awkwardly, I went to look for her, but she didn't want to show up. I'm afraid she also knew that Wu Yu was dead, so she didn't want to join in the fun. Shenzhenjiao remained silent. The Scarlet Shadow Sword Master next to him remembered Wu Yu's outstanding performance in Yanhuang Emperor City and murmured, if Wu Yu shows up, will she come? I think if Wu Yu dares to say that he will return to Xusan, it is probably for her. Where is now? You should give up on him. Speaking of Wu Yu, Baishan Mo's eyes welled up with hatred. He said, everyone is dead, so it's no use not to give up. Sister Nangong values feelings too much. Wu Yu was indeed good to her, and he was still with her when she was young, she remembers it very deeply, but time will always pass. Wu Yu is just a small passerby in her life and cannot make many waves. That's right. Wei really values feelings. Only I, Xusan, can cultivate such an affectionate person. It's not like that Wu Yu, who is ungrateful, cheats on others, keeps turning towards the devil, hurts Wei and was expelled from Xusan. After that, he immediately joined Yanhuang Emperor City and gained a high position, which brought shame to Xusan. This son should die on this battlefield of life and death, so that Xusan can be ashamed of itself. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, it was already noon, the sun was blazing in the sky, and there was still no news from Wu Yu and Yanhuang Emperor City. Shenzhenjiao's eyes were a little anxious, but Wu Yu did not appear. At this point, it was basically certain. Xuanji Sword Master said, it's almost time to leave. After waiting for a long time, I have exhausted my kindness and righteousness. If Wu Yu is coming, even if he hasn't arrived at Xusan yet, he only needs to set off from Yanhuang Emperor City, and there will be news. Obviously, Wu Yu hasn't set off from Yanhuang Emperor City yet, which means that he can't come here, and the news is that Wu Yu is dead. Baishan Mo looked around and saw that the sword cultivators had probably left more than 300,000 people. The more time passed, the more they felt that their wait today was absolutely in vain. Therefore, some sword cultivators dispersed first, and the only ones who remained were in order to see these strong men a few more times. Baishan Mo thought for a while and said, it's better to wait for the whole day. Although he didn't think Wu Yu would show up, he had made a lot of preparations for this day. Now that the time had finally come, he still wanted to stay for a while. After all, This means that his greatest enemy has disappeared. The sword cultivators are getting older and younger, and Baishan Mo is a little stubborn in his heart to stay here. He longs for this battlefield. People were chatting and laughing, and their mood gradually relaxed. In the blink of an eye, it was already getting dark, but Wu Yu still hadn't appeared. He hadn't appeared until now, so there were absolutely no surprises. Everyone was very relaxed, and they were very happy talking and laughing. Baishan Mo also had a smile on his face and talked very happily with the sword masters. At this time, he felt relieved. Once the agreed date passed, he would have a broader future from now on. Only a few people were a little regretful, such as Shenzhen Jiao. After waiting for a long time, Wu Yu was not seen, and he was about to leave. It's all gone. From today on, there will be no more Wu Yu in the world. Baishan Mo waved his hand gently and said to everyone. Everyone cheered. People began to leave with laughter, and Baishan Mo also said goodbye to the sword masters one by one. Except Shenzhen Jiao. He doesn't like Shenzhen Jiao. At this moment, Shenzhen Jiao turned around and left. Suddenly, a talisman came to his side. After he caught it, he opened it gently. At this time, not many people noticed him. When he opened the talisman and took a closer look, he was confused at first, then surprised, and finally he couldn't help but laugh. At this time, even Baishan Mo was smiling and ready to leave, but he suddenly said loudly, "Goodbye, everyone, I'm in a hurry to leave, I have the latest news." Shenzhen Jiao's words immediately attracted everyone. "What the hell?" Crimson Shadow Sword Master said displeasedly. Unexpectedly, Shenzhen Jiao said calmly, "You may not believe it, but I just received a talisman. This talisman was passed to me by Wu Yu." Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 465. Wu Yu. The appearance of this name from Shenzhen Jiao's mouth was simply terrifying to the sword cultivators who had been laughing all day. In an instant, all the people who were about to leave stopped and looked at Shenzhen Jiao in shock. The smiles on many people's faces froze. Of course, the biggest reactions were still the sword masters and Baishan Mo. They suddenly turned around and stared at Shenzhen Jiao with cold eyes, as if Shenzhen Jiao was Wu Yu at this time. The entire battlefield of life and death suddenly became dead silent at this moment. People stared at Shenzhen Jiao with wide eyes, and countless eyes focused on him, some of which even contained a certain amount of malice, because what Shenzhen Jiao just said was something they didn't want to hear. However, even so, Shenzhen Jiao would not be frightened by such pressure. He said lightly, "To tell you the truth, Wu Yu is not dead. It is obvious that what was spread before was a rumor. As for why he did not come here today, I will just read out the message he gave me." He paused, and then in the eyes of the unwilling and angry people, he said, "It says, Senior, due to delays, I am afraid I can't make it to Xuanhuan today, but please rest assured, let Baishan Mo wait well. Within 10 days, Wu Yu will go to the Xuanhuan battlefield of life and death to fight with him and settle the grudge." This sentence is very arrogant, and he doesn't take Baishan Mo seriously at all. In fact, he doesn't take the Xuanhuan heroes seriously. After all, Wu Yu wants them to wait for him for 10 days. Originally, they were in a good mood and waited for a day. When they were about to end it, they suddenly heard the news that Wu Yu was still alive. The sword cultivators really couldn't accept it. What's more hateful is that Wu Yu not only didn't arrive at the agreed time, but also made them wait for 10 days. This provocative move immediately made most people present furious. After he finished speaking, Shenzhen Jiao turned to everyone, especially Baishan Mo, and said, "This is the tail talisman I left for Wu Yu. It is almost certain that it was sent by him himself. 2 messages, first, Wu Yu is not dead. Second, he will appear here within 10 days. It seems that this battle has to go on." The sword masters' faces turned pale, and the surrounding sword cultivators cursed angrily. Who is this Wu Yu? He left us here? He made us wait for him for 10 days in vain. He didn't come at the agreed time, so he is a coward. What qualifications does he have to let Baishan Mo wait for him for 10 days? Such a person who doesn't keep his word is really a joke. Now more people can see the true face of Wu Yu. Keeping promises is the foundation of a man. He doesn't even have the most basic integrity. I guess the news of his disappearance was released by himself. He used these boring means just to irritate us. This person is so shameless. People looked at Shen Xinjiao angrily. They knew that Shen Xinjiao and Wu Yu had a good relationship, so they transferred their anger to Shen Xinjiao at this time. For today, this news is a bombshell. In fact, Baishan Mo's heart was more changed than others, but he was still calm. Even though the sword saints were angry and cursed, he still sneered, "Very good, I thought he was really dead, what a pity for my 3 years of sprint. Since he is not dead, that's great. I can also test my efforts in the past 3 years. The most important thing is that he and I really lack a conclusion." He said this with gritted teeth. The blood of fighting was burning in him again. The Xuanhuan sword saint looked ugly and said, "Xiao Mo, Wu Yu is obviously playing tricks on us. We have already made an appointment. He obviously doesn't take us Xuan seriously. Not only is he delaying time, but even the news of disappearance and death before may be manipulated by himself. A dignified cultivator uses these little tricks, which is really disgusting. Why should we wait for him for another 10 days? This is also the dissatisfaction in most people's hearts." The Red Shadow Sword Saint said, "Shen Xinjiao, hurry up and get Wu Yu to come over here. How can we in Xusan wait for him?" Just as he finished speaking, Baishan Mo stretched out his hand to intercept him, saying, "Don't get excited. Please listen to me. We in Xusan Immortal sect uphold the orthodoxy. What kind of enemies have we not encountered? If he is fair and square, then we will kill him until he is convinced. If he likes to use these boring methods, we are too lazy to bother with this idiot. I will let him know that no matter how shameless he is, we in Xusan Immortal sect, Baishan Mo, can still subdue him and kill him. In this case, what is 10 days? But it is just to let this idiot play tricks. They have only lived for 10 days. That's right, no matter how shameless Wu Yu is, why should we fear him? Are we afraid of him as an abandoned disciple and a traitor? His tricks will only let us, the cultivators of Shenzhou, know how low his mind is. Then give this fool another 10 days. I have really learned a lot. I have been cultivating for 100 years and have never seen such a shameless person. He didn't arrive on the agreed date and made so many people in Xusan wait for him. What a bird he is. These tricks are useless. If he is defeated and killed, he will only add to the laughing stock. Wait and fight, this is what Baishan Mo meant. Zinc Sword Saint, respond to Wu Yu for me, I will wait for him for another 10 days. If he doesn't come again, I am afraid I will have to kill him in Yanhuang Emperor City to meet this coward, Baishan Mo said righteously. Shen Xinjiao nodded and responded that this was a trivial matter. He didn't want Wu Yu to break his promise either. He said 10 days this time, and it would definitely come. In fact, he was already very relaxed at this time. As long as Wu Yu didn't die, there would be endless possibilities. Shen Xinjiao glanced at the crowd, and sure enough, Shen Xingyu, Bailey Fiheng and others were also in a good mood. People originally thought that they would not see this battle, but now they were angered by Wu Yu, and the heroes were furious. Although there were still 10 days, the sword cultivators who had just left returned one by one. Before a day had passed, the battlefield of life and death gathered nearly 1 million people again. This news spread, and there were still a steady stream of sword cultivators returning. Baishan Mo stood on the battlefield of life and death. He looked up at the top of Qingtian Shusan. He knew that Nangongwei obviously knew the news. He is still alive. Will she be happy to hear this news? Or will she be disgusted like me? Wu Yu has made her uneasy for so long. Only if I kill him, and in front of her, maybe she can really get rid of it. So, for me, it may be a good thing that Wu Yu is still alive. This is my chance to really make a name for myself. Now in the land of Shenzhou, Wu Yu, who is the first in the Yan battle, is more famous than Baishan Mo. After thinking a lot, Baishan Mo sneered repeatedly. He was hot all over, and the purple palace energy surged in his body. It was an endless ocean. After more than 2 years in the Shushan Samsara cave, he had incredible confidence in his progress. Now the only thing to consider was how to kill Wu Yu quickly in front of the people of Yanhuang Emperor City. Even if you still miss him, I will still let him die the most miserable death in front of you. I will prove to you that Wu Yu is far less good than me. Compared with me, he is a scum. After coming out of the Samsara cave, Baishan Mo was still disappointed for a while when he heard the news of Wu Yu's disappearance and death. After all, after such a long time of hard work, the opponent died first, which was indeed a bit depressing. But now, the fire in his heart has burned again, and it is still burning. Burning to every particle in his body is congested. Although Qiang's sword Immortal said that it would be better if Wu Yu died first, as a young man full of blood, with his hatred for Wu Yu, how could he not want to personally kill him under the attention of the entire Shenzhou? I will wait for him for 10 days. After 10 days, if he still doesn't come, I will kill him in Yanhuang Emperor City and pull him out. Baishan Mo's voice spread throughout the death, and also made the sword cultivator's blood boil, roaring and shouting one after another. For a time, the whole Shushan was surging. Shenzhen watched all this silently. In fact, he knew that with Wu Yu's character, if there was no delay, he would never play tricks. Wu Yu saw that the time seemed to be almost up, but the refinement and improvement of the clone was just a little short. He thought that everyone outside thought he was missing and dead, so he might as well wait a few days before going to count. Anyway, he only needed these few days. This time, the clone consumed all his 30,000 Kanghai Yuankai pills. Finally, on the second day after the agreed date, all of them were promoted to the second level of Zifa Kanghai realm, which was the same as Wu Yu's current realm. Success. When he took back all the thousands of terrifying clones, the Emperor Marshal, wearing black armor, looked at him with interest and said, "You missed the time, are you still going?" "Of course. Let's go now," Wu Yu said decisively. Although he reserved 10 days, he would act immediately after he got it done. "Very good, very courageous, I like courageous young people like you," the Emperor Marshal smiled. This time, he agreed to accompany him. "Let's go out." Wu Yu and the Emperor Marshal left the Yanhuang ancient well. Before leaving, he said goodbye to the Yanhuang city lord. The Yanhuang city lord stared at him and said, "Wu Yu, since you are now a member of my Yanhuang Emperor city, then we will be your backing in the future. Anyone who wants to decide your life or death must ask us first, do you understand?" Obviously, the Yanhuang city lord values him so much. Wu Yu was overjoyed and thanked him immediately. In fact, he was a very simple person. Whoever treats him well, he will be grateful and repay the favor. Wu Yu and Luo Ben entered the heaven-devouring demon mansion together. The Emperor Marshal and the city lord did not punish him, which was very good to him. When he left the city lord's mansion, it should be the Emperor Marshal who first revealed the news that he had returned from his disappearance and was about to go to the Shushan Immortal Gate to fight. Unexpectedly, there were so many people waiting for him outside the city lord's mansion. At that moment, all the Yanhuang Immortal Army's eyes were focused on him. The Emperor Marshal threw up a black warship that was 10 times larger than the Yanhuang warship, and the black warship flew into the sky. The Emperor Marshal said, "Who wants to fight Shushan with Wu Yu? If you want to go, then get on the ship." Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 466. The Black Warship is ancient and majestic. In every aspect, it is 10 times more powerful than the ordinary Yanhuang warship. On the warship, there are many reliefs of giant beasts, all of which are ferocious and cruel. Even the canvas is stained with a lot of blood. Obviously, this warship has experienced many tragic battles. The Black Warship has a magnificent fighting atmosphere. But compared with the Black Warship, Wu Yu, who was rumored to be missing and dead but suddenly appeared again, is more exciting. Everyone knows the story of Wu Yu very well, and they also know his 3-year agreement. The young man is passionate and full of vigor, which is the most fascinating. When Wu Yu, who was expelled from Shushan, now has the support of Yanhuang Emperor City and returns to Shushan, what will happen? I believe everyone is looking forward to it. Commander, in the crowd, a group of people were shouting at Wu Yu frantically. They were the Yanhuang Immortal Army of Kishan Camp. They looked at Wu Yu with joy and rushed to the sky. After the emperor just finished speaking, they immediately raised their hands and even flew directly into the air, heading for the Black Warship in the sky. The Black Warship can still accommodate tens of thousands of people if it is a little crowded. With the beginning of Kishan Camp, a large number of Yanhuang Immortal Army caught up with the Black Warship and went to Shushan Immortal Gate to watch the excitement without waiting for the emperor to agree. Among them, the speed of many thousand men and centurions must be the fastest, so it can be clearly seen that a large number of Yanhuang Immortal Army rushed to the sky, and soon the Black Warship was almost full. Because the 1,000 men and centurions are fast, as long as the centurions and 1,000 men who want to go, basically boarded the Black Warship. On the Black Warship, there were densely packed and extremely enthusiastic Yanhuang Immortal Army. Although they were there to watch the fun, at least for the sword cultivators of Shushan Immortal Sect, they were Wu Yu's strongest backing. They were the symbol of Wu Yu's belonging to Yanhuang Emperor City. Okay, I can't squeeze in. The emperor felt sorry for his Black Warship and quickly asked the Yanhuang Immortal Army who wanted to squeeze in to get off. At this time, the emperor waved his hand, and suddenly more than a dozen powerful beings appeared beside Wu Yu. Looking around, they were all generals comparable to the Shushan Sword Saint, such as General Gu, General Murong, General Jinluan, etc. General Qin didn't come. It is said that after knowing the news that Qin Fuwei was an undercover ghost cultivator, he was hit hard. After all, it was he who raised Qin Fuwei and cultivated her. There were also some unfamiliar faces, but each of them had a majestic aura and a profound cultivation, and they were all generals of the Yanhuang Immortal Army. The emperor introduced Wu Yu to them one by one. Let's not talk too much. You all will come with us this time, just to make up a few heads. After all, this is Wu Yu's personal matter. Of course, since Wu Yu has joined our Yanhuang Immortal Army, he is one of us. If anyone bullies him again, he must ask our brothers whether they agree or not. The emperor is good at inciting people. When he finished speaking, the heroes were excited. Generally, the emperor would not personally lead the Yanhuang Emperor City. Everyone was looking forward to what was about to happen in the Shushan Immortal Gate. Finally, Wu Yu, the emperor, and a dozen generals boarded the Black Warship. There were still tens of thousands of Yanhuang Immortal Army who wanted to come up. They could only watch the Black Warship take off into the sky, fly out of the Yanhuang Emperor City in the loud war songs, fly through the clouds, shuttle through the endless white clouds, and rush towards the west. The Black Warship broke through the clouds and mist, and its speed was terrifying, which was definitely not comparable to ordinary Yanhuang warships. Boom boom boom. The black battlefield broke through the wind. The ordinary Yanhuang Immortal Army were all at the rear of the warship, while Wu Yu, Emperor Marshal, and others stood at the front facing the wind. At this speed, it won't be long before the Black Warship will reach Shushan Immortal Gate. At that time, it will be the most important moment for me to prepare for 3 years. Standing at the bow, facing the strong wind, there are millions of sword cultivators in front, and the mysterious and solid Yanhuang Imperial City and the passionate Yanhuang Immortal Army behind. Now riding the wind and waves, I feel full of vigor and vitality. How many times in life, like now, the world is paying attention. The Emperor Marshal in black armor stood beside him. The surging wind could not shake him at all. His face with thick stubble showed a smile, and his rough voice said, "When I was young, it seemed that there were always a few passionate moments. Xuanhuan Immortal Gate is also a giant. How about it? Are you nervous? Cut off the previous relationship, there is nothing to be nervous about." Wu Yu shook his head. "It's good to have this confidence, but I still have to remind you that Baishan Mo has made great progress since he came out of the Samsara cave. The simplest point is that he, like Murong Su, can already use the Taoist tools. But according to my estimation, although Murong Su has practiced hard, he lacks the opportunity of the Samsara cave, so even if they both have Taoist tools, he is probably not Baishan Mo's opponent. Xuanhuan finally has a genius like Baishan Mo, and the 7 immortals of Xuanhuan are jointly guiding him. This treatment is indeed unprecedented. You have to be more careful." The emperor looked at him with a smile. "In fact, this is the pressure before the war. It is also to let Wu Yu know what he has. Wu Yu, you have to prove that Xuanhuan's exile of you is the most wrong decision. You have to prove that you are even better than Baishan Mo and Nangang Wei. At least in my opinion, this is the case. And none of the 7 immortals of Xuanhuan has the vision I have. Otherwise, you will not be cheap to our Yanhuang Emperor City." The emperor laughed. He was very direct in his words. However, Wu Yu didn't like beating around the bush. What he said makes sense. This time when he goes back, Wu Yu has to prove it like this. What a depressing thing it was to be exiled. How could it end like this with so many words of rolling? This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. That thing is not over yet. Heroes have always been young, and talents of the time. At present, I, Emperor Yi, only admire you. Wu Yu Emperor Marshal patted his shoulder. Such a high evaluation? At least, Emperor Marshal's words gave Wu Yu unimaginable confidence. Now when facing the millions of sword cultivators, he is very calm and even fearless. He is no longer as helpless as when he was exiled. Because he is stronger now. And because at this time, he has the support of Emperor Marshal, Yanhuang City Lord and the entire Yanhuang Emperor City. Wu Yu, if you have demons in your heart, you need to let them go. All the troubles in the world can be broken with your heart. The Bone General also came forward and said solemnly. That's right, young and frivolous, you should take revenge when you have revenge, and repay kindness when you have kindness. No matter how much you were looked down upon in the past, you should let many people look at you with new eyes now. Clear the resentment in your heart, and then you will find that the road to cultivation is bright and smooth ahead. As the saying goes, those who have achieved the Tao are not necessarily great saints, but they are definitely people of temperament. Although these words are scattered, they have a great effect on Wu Yu. He understands better what he should do after returning to Xuanhuan this time, under the witness of thousands of people. Boom boom boom. Amid the shouts of the Yanhuang Immortal Army, when the black warship was riding the wind and waves, at a certain moment, a sword-shaped mountain suddenly appeared in the clouds ahead. That is Qingtian Xuanhuan. Qingtian Xuanhuan, straight into the sky. That was Wu Yu's dream place. Fanjian domain, vast and boundless. Qingtian Xuanhuan, straight and majestic, like a pillar supporting the sky, connected to the heavenly palace. Seeing Qingtian Xuanhuan, it was as if there was a sharp giant sword that would pierce him early. Wu Yu's eyes were deep, and he was unwavering in his fight against the sharp giant sword. Indistinctly, you can see that under Qingtian Xuanhuan, millions of sword chi are everywhere, and the sword cultivators are soaring into the sky, extremely sharp, waiting for Wu Yu. It's a different concept for him to come alone and come with a group of people. If he comes alone, no matter how strong he is still a weakling, but if he comes with a group of people, he is at least on the same level as the Xuanhuan Immortal Gate, not just its abandoned disciple. The emperor laughed loudly, ignoring the oppression of Qingtian Xuanhuan, driving the black warship, roaring towards the Fanjian domain. When he felt the approach of the black warship, the mountain protection formation connecting the Fanjian domain and Qingtian Xuanhuan was immediately activated. For a time, thousands of sword chi burst out from the Fanjian domain and rushed into the sky. Hundreds of millions of sword chi formed a formation diagram, completely closing the Xuanhuan Immortal Gate. This scene also shocked all the Yanhuang Immortal Army. Although this was an automatic reaction of the protective magic array, it was actually a warning to the Yanhuang Emperor City. At this time, it was obvious that Baishan Mo and others knew that Wu Yu and his team had arrived. In fact, at this time, only 2 days had passed since the agreed date, and Baishan Mo and his team were ready to wait. They thought Wu Yu would delay it for 10 days. With this protective magic array, the Emperor Marshal really couldn't get in. Forcing in did not mean that the two sides would go to war. He and the Xuanhuan Immortal Gate were far from such a relationship, so he stood on the black warship with a loud voice that could be heard from afar. He said, 7 immortals of Xuanhuan, I, Emperor Yi, have come from afar to escort Wu Yu, a member of the Yanhuang Emperor City, to the appointment with Baishan Mo of Xuanhuan. You actually used this protective magic array to block us out. This is too rude. Emperor Marshal. The Xuanhuan sword cultivators were terrified when they heard this voice. What they feared most was that the emperor would follow them. It was said that the 2 most powerful men in Yanhuang Emperor City, even the emperor, were better than the strongest Tianchi sword immortal in Xuanhuan. In fact, there were 2 sword immortals on the battlefield of life and death, namely Qiang sword immortal and Tianji sword immortal. Qiang sword immortal was extraordinary and young, while Tianji sword immortal was mysterious, profound, and contented. When the emperor drove the black warship to come, Qiang sword immortal was actually very angry and said angrily, he is so arrogant, he wants to come in by driving the magic weapon directly. Do you think my Xuanhuan Immortal Gate is their back garden? We must not let this group of guys in. They dare to be so arrogant when they come to my Xuanhuan Immortal Gate. So he said, please put away the warship and come in with the others. Hearing this, the emperor smiled coldly and said, I have heard that Qiang sword immortal is as timid as a mouse. It is true. He is afraid of me driving a broken ship. I think I'd better let him in today to avoid scaring Qiang sword immortal to pee his pants. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 467. Xuanhuan Fairyland. The highest peak of Qingtianshu Mountain is covered with white snow and heavy wind and snow. Feather-like snowflakes were flying. In the endless wind and snow, there is a fiery red palace embedded almost at the top of the peak. There are countless huge crystal swords inserted into the palace, making the palace look like a steel giant covered with thorns. Any ice or snow that falls around the palace will melt quickly or even vaporize. There is no need for candlelight in the palace. The magic circle painted on the wall is filled with firelight, making the entire palace extremely bright. Outside the huge palace, there is a platform that extends out. On that platform, there is now a woman standing. The woman has a delicate body, and 9 colors of fire are flowing up and down her body, making her seem to be born in the flames. At its feet, you can see the most special part of the mortal sword domain, where millions of sword energies are rolling. However, what attracted her attention even more was that there was a black warship outside the fan sword domain. The black warship was very powerful and domineering, and now someone was shouting. Although Nangongwei didn't see him, she knew that he was already here. Go there for the 3-year agreement. He's coming. Without much hesitation, she stepped off the high platform and jumped directly down. Suddenly, a 9-color firelight was falling rapidly downwards. The Emperor Shui's mockery immediately made the people on the black warship burst into laughter, but this was undoubtedly a provocation to the Xuanhuan immortal sect. Therefore, the opponent's approach was menacing. When Qiang's sword immortal heard this, his face became even more livid. On the other hand, Ji's sword immortal remained calm that day and said, "Let him come in." These trivial details are not worth mentioning. It doesn't matter whether the black warship can enter or not. What matters most is the outcome of today's 3-year agreement between Wu Yu and Beishan Mo. After Tianji's sword immortal finished speaking, the protective formation was under his control, and then it stopped moving and gradually became quiet. "It's still the majesty of Tianji's sword immortal," the emperor smiled loudly, and drove the black warship into the mortal sword territory, speeding away in the direction of the battlefield of life and death in the sky above the mortal sword territory. After 3 or 4 years, Wu Yu finally returned to Xuanhuan again. He stood on the bow of the black warship, looking down at the vast mountains of the mortal sword territory. Most of the places here were familiar to him. He even passed by the Jindan cave. In the blink of an eye, the black warship arrived at the battlefield of life and death. The emperor showed no intention of slowing down, so at least more than 200,000 swordsmen here were forced to make way. The scene was so overwhelming that the black warship was torn apart. A gap, tit for tat with those millions of sword cultivators. Although far inferior to the opponent in terms of numbers, the level of the Yanhuang immortal army is higher, especially the top experts. There are even more than 10 generals, which is similar to all the Xuanhuan sword saints present on the opponent's side. Wu Yu stood on the bow of the ship, facing off against the strong men of Xuanhuan at this moment. In front of him, there were millions of sword cultivators headed by 2 sword immortals and more than a dozen sword masters. Of course, the millions of sword cultivators in Xuanhuan finally fixed their sights on Wu Yu after seeing the emperor commander and the Yanhuang generals who accompanied Wu Yu with shocked eyes. Today, he is undoubtedly the center of attention. He returned to Xuanhuan, so that people paid attention to him and even forgot about Beishan Mo. In Wu Yu's eyes, all the familiar Xuanhuan figures appeared on the opposite side, including Beishan Mo, Shuohua sword master, Qiang sword immortal, Tianji sword immortal, etc. It can be said that I have a lot of emotions when I return to this place. However, he didn't want to sigh at all. But Nangongwei was not seen. However, many people looked at the sky. Not long after Wu Yu's black warship arrived here, a beautiful shadow accompanied by 9-color firelight fell on the battlefield of life and death. Standing with Beishan Mo on the battlefield of life and death, there was Nangongwei on the battlefield. Nangongwei looked indifferent and looked at Wu Yu. In an instant, the slightly fiery eyes almost penetrated Wu Yu's heart. After not seeing each other for such a long time, she seemed to be the same as before. It was just the old estrangement. It could be seen from her indifferent eyes at this moment that there was no room for maneuver at all. When Nangongwei was hunting in a long skirt and landed on the battlefield of life and death, the Emperor Commander and the other sword immortals had just met. At this time, the Jade Sword Immortal smiled slightly and said, "Emperor Commander, we meet again. You see. Come out, the Emperor has made great progress, which is gratifying. Stop talking about it. We have already reached the limit. How can we make any progress? The future of this divine continent still depends on young people. No, I will send one of the most beautiful geniuses in our Yanhuang Emperor city to let's discuss it with your Xuanhuan Immortal section." At this point, he turned to Wu Yu and said, "Don't delay now that you're here, let's get started." Wu Yu also thought the same way. Now that we have arrived, we have to solve the problem. He didn't say much. While millions of people were realizing it, he jumped high into the sky and jumped to the battlefield of life and death. Back then, he left here almost on his knees, but today, he came back standing. With a loud noise, he suddenly landed on the battlefield of life and death. On the battlefield of life and death, there were 3 people standing at this time. The 3 people immediately became the focus of everyone. The people in Yanhuang Emperor City were very powerful. When Wu Yu went into battle, they directly shouted Wu Yu's name, and they shouted with all their strength. Even though the number of people is far smaller than that of the other party, the momentum and dominance are not those of the million sword cultivator. These voices invisibly became Wu Yu's backing, making the Xuanhuan disciples no longer think that Wu Yu was just their abandoned disciple. Just as Emperor Shui said, his only identity now is that he is a super genius from Yanhuang Emperor City. Wu Yu. Blow them up. A mere Xuanhuan immortal sect can also fight with the people from our Yanhuang Emperor City. That's Baishan Mo. What a sissy. How can he be Wu Yu's opponent? Wu Yu is the number 1 in the Yan battle. Seeing how arrogant the people of Yanhuang Emperor City were, many Xuanhuan sword cultivators were very angry, so they started yelling and cursing. For a while, the 2 sides were fighting fiercely in words. You were going back and forth, hitting each other, and it was very lively. The key is that although Yanhuang Emperor City has a small number of people, it is not at a disadvantage at all. That's enough, shut up. Qiang Sword Immortal couldn't hold his breath at first, and shouted sharply. Suddenly, everyone in the audience felt as if sword energy was piercing their ears, scaring millions of people to shut up quickly, and the entire Xuanhuan suddenly it became deathly silent again. Wu Yu glanced at the Qiang Sword Immortal, maybe because he felt annoyed. The Qiang Sword Immortal looked at him with eyes full of disgust. The disgust was much deeper than before. Seeing that it finally quieted down, Baishan Mo finally found a chance to speak. His eyes were as cold as ice. He stood in front of Nangong Wei and said coldly, Wu Yu, I didn't expect that you, a deserter and a traitor, would be brave enough to come back. You have been expelled from the section. Logically speaking, you are forbidden to set foot in Xuanhuan again. However, today it is either you die or I live, so the sect does not care about you. 4 years ago, you made a big mistake, but you got away with it. In the past 4 years, you have repeatedly done things that have ruined the reputation of Xuanhuan. Today, I, Baishan Mo, will replace my ancestors and represent millions of sword cultivators to clear the door for Xuanhuan on this battlefield of life and death. What will happen to you today? Just kill him on the spot. Baishan Mo spoke with great passion, as if he had become the executioner who tried Wu Yu. At this point, Wu Yujing concentrated, interrupted him, and said, I think you were kicked in the head by a donkey. Long before the disciple talisman disappeared from my body, I had nothing to do with Xuanhuan. I came to Xuanhuan today. I came here on behalf of the Yanhuang Emperor City, and the so-called Xuanhuan abandoned disciple status has long had nothing to do with me. If you really want to have this relationship with me, I can only say that I despise Xuanhuan, dislike Xuanhuan, and quit on my own. Xuanhuan, join the stronger Yanhuang Emperor City. You can judge me as you like, but please understand that I am here to fight you as a member of Yanhuang Emperor City. Once again, Xuanhuan and I are here. It doesn't matter. These words immediately made many Xuanhuan disciples dissatisfied. Everyone yelled and cursed, Wu Yu, you bully your master and destroy your ancestors, eat the inside and outside the outside. Xuanhuan has nurtured you, but you are so cruel. I didn't expect that there is such a shameless person like you in the world. The Yanhuang Emperor City has taken in you, a mad dog. You must learn a lesson sooner or later. Wu Yu, please feel your conscience. At least most of what you get today is due to Xuanhuan. Otherwise, you would be just a small role. How could you be today? Not only are you ungrateful, but you also dare to talk nonsense. I think you will definitely die today, and it will be difficult to eliminate the hatred of the people until you die. Baishan Mo also took advantage of the situation and said, I dare you to say it. You thought that with the support of Yanhuang Emperor City, you could be lawless. You offended the entire Shushan, and you are in doom today. You should have figured it out a long time ago, but you decided to come here. At this moment, it is destined to be a battle of life and death. Wu Yu, this is a battlefield of life and death. I have made a promise to you, if you fight here, you will not be able to leave, regardless of life or death. Wu Yu smiled hoarsely and said, that's natural. Once you get here, I have no intention of letting you live. When it comes to arrogance, who can match him? Now, even in the face of the curses of millions of sword cultivators, he can only laugh it off, because he knows that it is useless to talk too much now. Everything must be divided into life and death. Awesome, anyone can brag. But do you really know how big the gap is between you and me? Baishan Mo couldn't help laughing. Above the sky, Qiang's sword immortal said, Xiao Mo, don't waste time with irrelevant people. Take action. Yes, 6th Master Baishan Mo was even more happy to have the support of Qiang's sword immortal. He did not speak, but secretly showed off to Wu Yu with his mouth movements. Look, he said that he only recognizes me as his son-in-law, and you, Wu Yu, are just an unrelated person. Sorry for writing late. There are more below. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 468. Chapter 464 Qingming Emperor Sword. It doesn't matter if we start a war. I have been preparing for this moment for more than 3 years, and it's not a short amount of time. But on the battlefield of life and death, Nangongwei still stands. When Baishan Mo was shouting, Wu Yu looked at Nangongwei. In fact, the person he wanted to see the most today was still her. Although the gap was already deep now, when they met again, they even felt strange, but everything in the past was no longer the same. Not so easy to forget. Nangongwei originally turned her head sideways, perhaps because she felt his gaze, but now she stared over, perhaps to hide her inner emotions. Her eyes were burning with 9-color flames, making it difficult to see her emotions clearly. In this wind and snow, the majestic fire on her body raised the temperature of the entire battlefield of life and death. At this moment, in Wu Yu's world, not even Baishan Mo existed. When he was expelled from Shushan, he hadn't had time to say goodbye to her, and he hadn't said anything clearly yet. Now before the battle, there were some things he wanted to ask Nangongwei. So at this time, he gritted his teeth and said, up to now, do you have any regrets or any thoughts about changing? If I still stick to my own beliefs and behaviors, are you willing to tolerate me, or do you have to ask me to follow your ideas? Do that? If you don't force me, I can forget everything about the past few years. The biggest conflict between him and Nangongwei is Zhu Ying. Nangongwei once felt that Zhu Ying had to die, and she couldn't tolerate her Taoist companion not helping her or even stopping her. Wu Yu asked sincerely, and Nangongwei was silent for a while after listening. Baishan Mo interrupted, Wu Yu, don't be shameless and ask this kind of question again, okay? Your selfishness and shamelessness have long made Sister Nangong extremely disappointed in you, now don't pretend to be a saint and ask her again. Even if it wasn't so shameless, she would have forgiven you long ago. Many Shushan sword cultivators agreed with Wu Yu's words, so they were also making noises at this time. Their dirty words reminded Wu Yu of the word go, hundreds of thousands of people shouted together. Most people here have said that word to themselves. However, he still just wanted to know Nangongwei's answer. Nangongwei's burning eyes stared at him and responded coldly, didn't you say that we have different ways and we don't want to conspire against each other? My hatred is as deep as the sea, and I am not from the same world as you. As early as you left Shushan that day, I will have nothing to do with you anymore, and if you ask me again now, it is nothing more than unnecessary. There is good and evil in the world, and there is karma. I am willing to help you get revenge, but I am not willing to help you kill innocent people. As long as you don't shake me on this point, I can accommodate you in other aspects. There is nothing between you and me. It has to be so tense, right? Wu Yu was a little reluctant, but he still wanted to persist. I still can't let go of the person who once gave me the 9 directions demonic suppression pillar. Even though it has been returned to her, the memory of the past cannot be lost. However, Nangong Wei may have given up long ago. Her face became fierce, and her voice was full of hatred, and she said, Wu Yu, I didn't come here to listen to your nonsense. The separation between you and me was already clear that day. We will have nothing to do with him from now on. If you say any more useless words today, it will only make me look down on you. If you really want to win my respect, all other tactics will be in vain. She was determined. Upon hearing this, Wu Yu knew that this relationship was completely broken. Even if sometimes both parties think about it, they will always miss it, but the reality is right in front of them, they are on different sides. Under this kind of confrontation, there can be no dissolution, only confrontation. If I were you, I wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't understand at all the gap between you and us. When we were separated for the first time when we were young, I was far beyond you and was if we transcend, you are destined to never have another chance to pursue in your life. There are people outside the world, and there are people outside the world. Wu Yu, you are from a humble background, you should have accepted your fate long ago. Unexpectedly, she said something like this when she retreated to the side and gave way to the fighting area. This made Wu Yu a little annoyed. It turns out that up until now, she still doesn't think highly of herself in terms of strength. When she first came out of the reincarnation cave in Shushan Mountain, Wu Yu had discovered that no matter how much she defended herself, she actually didn't put herself in a position with him. She was in the same position. She has strong confidence in herself, and Baishan Mo can always beat her, and is recognized by her in terms of strength, but Wu Yu rarely seems to be in front of her, which truly shocks her. Especially after they entered the Shushan reincarnation cave again and made great progress inside. Sister Nangong, please don't worry, I will clean up these annoying flies for you. You just need to watch with peace of mind. From now on, I will put an end to the front for you. From now on, you can feel at ease, practiced Baishan Mo said proudly. It's up to you, Nangong Wei responded indifferently. Maybe it was because there were too many people, or maybe Wu Yu was still unwilling to bow his head to her. He hadn't bowed to her even once in 3 or 4 years, so all the resentment in her heart burst out. Anyway, at this time, she had a very hot temper and what she said was unreasonable. It was particularly unpleasant. These million sword cultivators, Qiang Sword Immortal and Baishan Mo didn't make Wu Yu angry, but her few words made Wu Yu particularly angry. She looked down upon herself so much. Originally calm, now the anger in his heart is boiling, and soon drowned out his rationality. His indestructible body also became agitated. Every time at this time, it was his craziest time. His flesh swallowed a volcano, and now it was as if there was a volcano running and roaring on his body, so the battlefield of life and death was roaring. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. A trick, bluffing. I will send you to hell, one move will do. Baishan Mo grinned, started to move, and walked towards Wu Yu step by step. The surging and majestic purple palace energy on his body spread out, sweeping around his body wildly, as if forming a storm. This is the moment, almost all the sword cultivators are shouting for Baishan Mo. For a time, the sound shook the 4 fields. In this surging blood, the cultivators of Yanhuang Emperor City were not willing to lag behind, and they stood behind Wu Yu, roaring, and shouting to cheer Wu Yu up. Everyone had been waiting for this battle for too long. Until this moment, when the quarrel was so irresolvable and Wu Yu was most disappointed with Nangongwei, Baishan Mo seized the opportunity and attacked suddenly. Wu Yu's eyes, which were filled with golden flames, finally burned on Nangongwei's body. This was the collision of two flames. One so sweet, at least she showed that she wanted to die. Of course, it could be that she was confused. But even so, those words were enough to make Wu Yu, who still had hope for her, sad. At this moment, Baishan Mo pulled out a green water-like longsword from nowhere. The longsword exuded an amazing chill, as if it was a huge cold pool, appearing out of thin air between heaven and earth, and spreading for a while. The cold air froze countless sword cultivators and made them tremble all over, and they retreated quickly. Wu Yu also saw that there were countless magic arrays on the green longsword, densely packed, precise and thousands of them, as if the weapon was a real life. This is indeed a Taoist weapon, which is a tooth-like thing on Baishan Mo's neck. It is called the Qingming Emperor Sword. It is naturally from the former super strong man Qingming Sword Emperor of Shushan. This is not a simple Taoist weapon. Hai Xinling and even Han Li Dao sword cannot even compare. Holding the Qingming Emperor Sword, Baishan Mo at this time is like a killing god walking out of the ice hell. His eyes are filled with ink and his whole body is like the center of a cold pond. No matter from which aspect, he seems to be more talented than Murongsu. Murongsu is now the 5th level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, which is the limit of this age, but it seems that he is still not Baishan Mo's opponent. Indeed, Nangongwei has reason to think so. Even if she was good to Wu Yu, she was more proud of herself in her bones. Perhaps, this is what Qiang's sword Immortal instilled in her. Wu Yu didn't have time to think too much. Baishan Mo, holding the Qingming Emperor sword, smiled coldly. When the heroes roared and the sword energy soared into the sky, he suddenly rushed towards Wu Yu. With a sweep of his sword, a green sword energy burst out and suddenly turned into a dark green lake. Countless waves surged, like the vast waves of the sea, and there was no way to dodge. In the cold waves, there were countless dark green sword energy, tearing everything apart. Boom! The wave rushed over and swallowed Wu Yu in a blink of an eye. Suddenly, the sound of countless blades colliding sounded. Everyone was shocked to find that after the dark green wave swept over, the battlefield of life and death was cut into countless cracks, and even the mountain behind it was broken in a bang. Not only was it frozen into pieces by the cold air, but the sword energy was also shattered and turned into flying ashes. Wu Yu disappeared. Everyone was shocked. Could it be that Wu Yu was turned into ashes just after the battle? This Baishan Mo is too strong. As for Wu Yu, they didn't think Wu Yu was weak. After all, Wu Yu was the first in Yanzhen. They only thought that Baishan Mo had the inheritance of the Qingming Sword Emperor who almost became an immortal, so he would be much more terrifying. He's there. When many people were still stunned, someone found Wu Yu's trace. It turned out that Wu Yu had stood beside Baishan Mo at some point. What a fast speed! In fact, as long as the combat power is above Wu Yu, it can basically be seen that Wu Yu dodged Baishan Mo's attack in an instant. His speed was so fast that even Qiang's sword Immortal and others couldn't help squinting their eyes at this time. Judging from Wu Yu's speed, Baishan Mo would probably have to spend some effort to kill him today. Can you only run away? A coward who dares not face reality, Baishan Mo sneered, and the Qingming Emperor sword shone again. For Baishan Mo, the killer move he prepared for 3 years has just begun. It's a bit late and sleepy. I'll go to sleep first and continue writing tomorrow morning. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 469. /U0026 Nth noise of the battle between the two was much louder than the people present had imagined. A large range of battle had been given up, but when Baishan Mo attacked in anger, people could not help but retreat, and were amazed at Baishan Mo's strength at this moment. /U0026 Enbas, a sword cultivator, Baishan Mo showed extraordinary means. The Qingming Emperor's sword in his hand burst out sword energy. Wu Yu was indeed very fast, but at this time he was still forced by Baishan Mo to have no power to fight back. /U0026 and millions of sword cultivators roared and shouted for him. /U0026 and at this peak moment, Baishan Mo was simply full of vigor and vitality. His black hair was flying, and his sword robe was rolling, like a torrent of thousands of feet, turning around his body, and even condensing into a giant beast, circling around him. /U0026 and Ben Wu Yu's fiery eyes, he clearly saw that the residual soul of the Qingming Sword Emperor was in the Qingming Emperor's sword. Even in this battle, this super strong man from ancient times was guiding Baishan Mo. /U0026 NB, let me see where you can escape to. Baishan Mo suddenly stopped in front of him, his fingers were like swords, and dark green flames emerged from them. At this moment, he suddenly attached the flames to his eyes, and suddenly, dark green flames burned on his eyes. /U0026 NB, Eye of Qingming. /U0026 Empathies is an extraordinary magical power. After the eyes were lit, a torrent of dark flames suddenly erupted, sweeping across the world, quickly surrounding the entire battlefield of life and death, and naturally engulfing Wu Yu in this green sea of fire. /U0026 and Ben, the eyes of millions of sword cultivators and the people of Yanhuang Emperor City, in the eye of the battlefield of life and death, looking down from above, what appeared was a huge green eye, as if it had grown out of the earth, and it was now glaring at the sky, giving out a soul-stirring look. /U0026 Enbas for Wu Yu, he blocked the sea of fire from spreading to himself. Looking around, this countless sea of fire was also full of dark green soul-stirring eyes, and Baishan Mo could not be seen. /U0026 and these emerald green flames are actually very cold. Anything that is touched will be quickly burned into ice and then quickly shattered. /U0026 and key is that the countless eyes in the flames will still be subjected to this kind of spiritual shock even if they close their eyes. Once you relax your mind, this ruthless flame will pounce on you, and you will be crushed to pieces. /U0026 NB Wu Yu, your moment of despair has come. /U0026 and the entire Qingming Eye was echoing with Baishan Mo's laughter, and even people outside the Qingming Eye could hear it clearly. /U0026 NB Qingming Divine Emperor Sword Formation. /U0026 and suddenly, when Baishan Mo trapped Wu Yu with the Qingming Eye and caused a strong mental impact, he activated the attack formation on the Qingming Emperor sword. This is the attack formation of a Taoist weapon, and all of it is a real formation. When it is activated, there are tens of thousands of invisible formations that appear around the two, running wildly, absorbing the power between heaven and earth. /U0026 and swish, swish, swish. /U0026 and tens of thousands of magic arrays appeared out of thin air, and after absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, they quickly transformed into giant blue swords. The tens of thousands of giant blue swords were inserted into the eye of azure darkness. For a moment, the sword energy was grim, and there was a breath of death everywhere. /U0026 and at this juncture, not only Wu Yu, but at least more than 99% of the people outside could not find Baishan Mo's position in the huge eye of azure darkness. /U0026 and people could only see that the thousands of swords on the azure darkness divine emperor sword array were intertwined with each other, forming a closed net between each other, completely covering Wu Yu in it. At this time, Wu Yu was surrounded by Baishan Mo's magical powers and the attack magic array of the azure darkness divine emperor sword. It seemed that there was no way out at all. This situation made the millions of sword cultivators of the Xuanhuan Immortal sect ready to cheer. /U0026 Enban, the black warship, Wu Yu had not shown anything so far. Except for the excessive speed, he did not show anything. This made people a little anxious, especially the Kishan camp, their hearts were in their throats. /U0026 and boom. /U0026 and Qingming Divine Emperor Sword Formation exploded. /U0026 and what Baishan Mo showed was a level that even the Emperor was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that Baishan Mo was so young and so powerful. He seemed to have surpassed Murongsu in the use of this weapon. /U0026 and B Wu Yu, the Emperor was a little confused. Wu Yu seemed angry, but he was still very calm. Anger did not make him lose his mind. /U0026 and bat this time, Wu Yu's sight passed through the Qingming eye and saw Nangongwei. Nangongwei's eyes were indifferent, and her eyes were full of trust in Baishan Mo's ability. Now Wu Yu seemed to be in an absolute disadvantage. Looking at her expression, she seemed to think it was natural. /U0026 and B It seems that this fate is completely broken. Wu Yu understood it very well. /U0026 and looked around, and the momentum of Baishan Mo's Dao weapon attacking the sword formation was so huge. In the Eye of Azure, the giant blue swords vibrated and pointed at Wu Yu. These giant blue swords came from all directions, leaving no room for escape. Baishan Mo used this attack array to limit Wu Yu's speed, leaving him no room for escape. /U0026 and B die. /U0026 and sword array exploded, and tens of thousands of giant blue swords rolled up the flames of the Eye of Azure, covering and killing. /U0026 and accompanied by Baishan Mo's confident laughter, the laughter came from all directions, but Baishan Mo's location was still not found. /U0026 and this was a fatal blow. /U0026 and Beveryon has a perverted heart. Now most Chushan sword cultivators hope to see Wu Yu's death. /U0026 and people can't see that Wu Yu now has a golden symbol in his eyes. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. /U0026 and that is, the fiery eyes and golden pupils. /U0026 and just glanced around, and his eyes locked Baishan Mo's real position. In his field of vision, all the flames and sword energy disappeared, and Baishan Mo's trace appeared clearly. He was not far from Wu Yu's position, but was covered by the sea of fire created by the Eye of Qingming. /U0026 and been an instant. /U0026 and Baishan Mo was full of passion. When Wu Yu saw him, he thought it was just his luck. /U0026 and however, when Wu Yu locked his eyes on him and even showed a smile, his heart trembled. At the moment when his mind was trembling, the golden symbol in Wu Yu's eyes suddenly changed. /U0026 and bit became more complicated in an instant, and even a shocking force that shook the soul emerged. /U0026 and B what a wicked way, Baishan Mo was shocked. At this time, the Qingming Emperor sword formation he controlled was about to engulf Wu Yu and tear him apart. But he never expected that before that, he actually let out a scream for no reason. It should be said that there were two screams, one from Baishan Mo, and the other from the Qingming Emperor sword in his hand. /U0026 and Wu Yu could see clearly that the remnant soul on the Qingming Emperor sword was now burning with golden flames. The flames were fierce and terrifying. With Wu Yu's anger, in a very short moment, it directly engulfed the remnant soul and burned it to ashes. /U0026 and bus. /U0026 and the remnant soul on the Qingming Emperor sword was burned to death by Wu Yu in the blink of an eye while screaming. Wu Yu showed no mercy in this regard. He directly burned the last remnant soul and hope of the Qingming sword emperor. /U0026 and that's right, he upgraded the fire eyes and golden pupils from the void to the second level, refining soul. /U0026N Bone Glance, burning the soul. The fragile remnant soul of Qingming Sword Emperor met the nemesis, and was the first to bear the brunt, and was burned to death by Wu Yu on the spot. Obviously, Tianji Sword Immortals knew the existence of Qingming Sword Emperor, so when this moment happened, you can imagine how the 7 Immortals of Xuanhuan would react. /U0026N But Wu Yu did not regret it. /U0026N Qingming Sword Emperor was just one of them. Most of the power of Wu Yu's soul refining with his fiery eyes and golden pupils was still acting on Bai Shenmo's soul. In fact, he had not made any movement for a long time before, and was preparing for the soul refining. Now it broke out, first burning Qingming Sword Emperor to death, and then Bai Shenmo's soul suddenly burned with raging fire. /U0026N Wu Yu's year-long cultivation of the heavenly Dao magical power is many times stronger than his Qingming Eye. At this time, Bai Shenmo's soul was burned, his spirit was instantly weak, his head was tingling, and his mind collapsed. In this situation, he could not control the Qingming Divine Emperor sword formation and the Qingming Eye at all. The Qingming Eye suddenly dissipated, and the Taoist sword attack formation was suddenly disordered. Wu Yu easily rushed out of the disordered sword energy. In the chaotic moment, some of the attack sword formations rushed to the clouds, but were intercepted by the Xuan's protective magic formation, and some rushed to the earth, instantly flattening more than a dozen huge peaks. The cold air engulfed all the cedars. Looking down, it was simply a mess. /U0026N Ben Wu Yu's eyes. At this time, the Taoist Qingming Emperor sword in Bai Shenmo's hand suddenly fell, and he covered his head with both hands, howling in pain. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked at Wu Yu in horror with a thrilling look, his eyes full of disbelief. /U0026N But Wu Yu was not polite to him. /U0026N suddenly had the Yanhuang Optimus Prime in his hand. /U0026N divine movement technique was activated. /U0026N Wu Yu was so fast that he suddenly appeared in front of Bai Shenmo. He was hit on the head with a stick. This was the fastest physical attack. Bai Shenmo was shocked and blocked the Yanhuang Optimus Prime with both hands. However, Wu Yu's blow immediately caused his arms to burst and bleed. He slammed into the battlefield of life and death, and blood spurted out. /U0026N Boom. /U0026N Ben the blink of an eye, Wu Yu landed on the battlefield of life and death. His eyes were indifferent. He held the Yanhuang Optimus Prime and instantly appeared in front of Bai Shenmo. At this time, Wu Yu's soul refining technique had just passed, and Bai Shenmo's soul and body were hit hard. His mind was blank and he stared at Wu Yu blankly. I'm afraid this was the most unbelievable reality in his life. /U0026 And perhaps it was not until this moment that millions of sword cultivators and Yanhuang immortal soldiers reacted and looked at this incredible scene in horror. /U0026 And they still remembered that Wu Yu had suffered a fatal blow and was in danger. How did this sudden change happen? /U0026 And Bevan the Yanhuang immortal army had not expected this, so they were also shocked and looked at Wu Yu, who was about to kill Bai Shenmo. /U0026 And among them, people like Qiang Sword Immortal, Tianji Sword Immortal and Emperor Marshal saw clearly that in this process, there was another person who completely disappeared. /U0026 And once powerful Qingming Sword Emperor. /U0026 NB. /U003 Cent /U003C/Sente. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 470. Except for these three people, it is difficult for others to see the death of Qingming Sword Emperor. After all, they are the only ones present who are in the soul transformation realm. Others do not even have a soul, so how can they see the death of the remnant soul? Now, in the eyes of millions of people, Wu Yu defeated Baishan Mo with incredible means. Even until this moment, at least more than 99% of the people were puzzled and unbelievable. They only saw Wu Yu being oppressed by Baishan Mo's powerful attack, but did not see how Wu Yu fought back. At this moment, those pairs of astonished eyes, those pale and stiff faces, and those pairs of trembling hands all show that in an instant, Baishan Mo was crushed with amazing performance, and of course, the hearts of nearly 1 million sword cultivators were crushed. Although the Yanhuang immortal army on the black warship did not understand what was going on, but at least they saw Wu Yu win. Kishineing reacted the fastest. For a moment, everyone shouted and cheered enthusiastically. They also sympathized with Wu Yu's experience and hated these Shushan sword cultivators. When Wu Yu crushed Baishan Mo, their passion and pride were all released. Wu Yu, the crazy roar shook the four fields. At this time, the pride of millions of sword cultivators was completely suppressed. When Baishan Mo was defeated, they couldn't muster up the courage to shout for him. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Smoke Ji Wu. How could this happen? This Wu Yu must have used some shameful means. I don't believe this is true. How could Wu Yu be so powerful? Baishan Mo was personally cultivated by the 7 Immortals of Shushan. Their hearts were painful and depressed. There were many unwillingness and doubts, but the reality appeared nakedly in front of them. Wu Yu was not in a hurry to kill Baishan Mo. When he suppressed Baishan Mo with Yanhuang Optimus Prime, he suddenly turned back to look at Nangang Wei. Just as expected, she was shocked, her eyes were wide open, and she looked at Wu Yu with red eyes. Perhaps her heart was hit hard by Wu Yu at this moment. While shocked, hatred also emerged in her eyes. When Wu Yu defeated Baishan Mo, she did not become mutually understandable as Wu Yu imagined, but was insulted. However, at this time, there was movement in the sky. When he just came to Baishan Mo and was about to kill him, a murderous intent suddenly locked onto him. The terrifying murderous intent immediately made Wu Yu unable to move, and his whole body was suppressed. He knew very well that this was Qiang's sword immortal. Wu Yu, you dare to kill Qingming? Qiang's sword immortal roared angrily. Just halfway through, it was Tianji's sword immortal who asked him to take back his words. After all, this was a secret of Shushan. At this time, the remnant soul of Qingming's sword emperor died, and he could not say it out. But when Wu Yu looked up, he accidentally saw the Qiang sword immortal. His eyes were red and he looked crazy. He probably didn't hate him so much before. But Wu Yu didn't think he did anything wrong. Baishan Mo and the entire Shushan wanted him to die in battle at this time, so why couldn't he take revenge? Qiang's sword immortal once slapped him. Although Wu Yu couldn't give it back to him now, this result was undoubtedly more serious for Qiang's sword immortal than giving him a slap. There was only one emotion in his eyes now, that was to kill Wu Yu. In fact, the cold sword intent had enveloped Wu Yu's whole body at this moment, making him unable to move. Wu Yu couldn't help thinking that if the Emperor Marshal hadn't followed him today, he would have died. Fortunately, at the moment when Qiang's sword immortal was about to kill Wu Yu, the Emperor Marshal in black armor suddenly appeared above Wu Yu. When he appeared, the pressure on Wu Yu was instantly relieved. He raised his head and saw that Emperor Marshal was furious. He roared loudly with a heavy voice, "Nangang Xian. This is my Yanhuang Emperor City's people, and I am fighting a life and death battle with your Shushan Immortal Gate. As one of the 7 Immortals of Shushan, what do you want to do? I am Emperor Yi here, who allowed you to kill my people. Do you want to provoke hatred between my Yanhuang Emperor City and your Shushan Immortal Gate?" Emperor Marshal is usually easy to talk to, but at this moment he was angry, and his domineering voice was really terrifying. His voice caused a violent shock in the entire Shushan, and even shook Qiang's sword Immortal and Tianji's sword Immortal away, letting them return to their positions. Qiang's sword Immortal probably had great respect for the Qingming sword Emperor, so his eyes were red, his breathing was heavy, and he almost lost his mind. However, Tianji's sword Immortal pulled him back and said calmly, "Emperor, please don't misunderstand. Qiang was impulsive. I apologize to you. The Xuanhuan Immortal sect is not qualified to fight against the Yanhuang Emperor city now, and the Qingming Sword Emperor's matter cannot be brought to the surface. If it is spread out, the Qingming Sword Emperor, who is so powerful in the world, actually died in Wu Yu's hands. It will also be a huge damage to the reputation of the Qingming Sword Emperor. Tianji Sword Immortal feels that this matter really cannot be impulsive. After all, he also understands that the Qingming Sword Emperor should have died long ago and does not belong to this era. The Emperor said, "That's good. To be honest, I have no intention of targeting Xuanhuan. But Nangongxian, you have to think clearly. Wu Yu is not a member of your Xuanhuan now. You can't kill him whenever you want. Let's put ourselves in his shoes. Do I dare to kill a genius from your Xuanhuan sect? You just want to do it casually. It seems that you don't take me seriously at all." His words left Nangongxian speechless. Even if there was overwhelming anger in his heart, he had to suppress it at this time. He finally understood how difficult it would be for Wu Yu to deal with the Emperor Shui. If it weren't for the Emperor Shui, today didn't Wu Yu just let him kill him at will? This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. For a moment, the scene was dead silent. Only the Emperor Shui turned around and smiled at Wu Yu, reminding him, "Why are you so polite? Your life and death battle is not over yet. Don't give the other side a chance to counterattack." If Wu Yu could kill this Baishan Mo, he would certainly feel happy. It seems that with the Emperor Commander in charge, the Qiang Sword Immortal really can't do anything to him. In fact, this has something to do with Wu Yu himself. If he is the one who is defeated at this time, it will be difficult for the Emperor to rescue him here. After all, the 7 Immortals of Xuanhuan are all here. The Emperor's Commander-in-Chief can only ensure that Wu Yu can have fairness at best. Now, not even those million sword cultivators can save Baishan Mo. Because everyone on the Black Warship was shouting for Wu Yu's reputation at this time had risen to the extreme. The fate that Baishan Mo encountered today was actually something he brought upon himself. After all, he initiated this life and death battle himself. When the Emperor Commander maintained fairness for him, Wu Yu's eyes fell on Baishan Mo again. Baishan Mo was not his opponent before. Now that Qingming Sword Emperor died, his heart was hit like never before. At this time, his face was full of emotions. Pale, struggling to get up from the ground. Without saying a word, Wu Yu quickly stepped forward and swept the Yanhuang Optimus Prime from bottom to top, with the target being Baishan Mo's forehead. Wu Yu had no reason to forgive such an opponent who wanted to tear him into pieces on the spot. Life. Baishan Mo was on the verge of death in an instant. People couldn't help but close their eyes, feeling bitter and trembling inside, afraid to watch this scene. Once upon a time, Baishan Mo was the pride of Xuanhuan. This millionaire sword cultivator never thought that he would be defeated or even die in battle and be crushed by Wu Yu. For Wu Yu, killing him would end everything. From now on, he would probably never set foot in Xuanhuan again. This relationship would be completely over. What he never expected was that another person took action. A 9-color flame suddenly rolled up Baishan Mo and his Qingming Emperor sword, escaping Wu Yu's fatal blow. Wu Yu's move failed. In front of him, Nangongwei put the Qingming Emperor sword into Baishan Mo's hand, and at the same time gave him a spiritual elixir. The injuries on Baishan Mo's flesh were not serious, but the most serious. He was injured by the soul refining, and as time passed, Qiang Sword Immortal and Nangongwei came out to delay the time, and with the unknown pill, he recovered relatively quickly, and his eyes regained clarity in the blink of an eye. As long as his soul recovers a little, the impact on his combat effectiveness will not be great. For Wu Yu, Nangongwei's move is reasonable for him. He expected it. He was still a little sad when he expected it. After all, this was a fair fight. If she was defeated and died, she would probably not protect herself. Seeing this scene, Emperor Shui was displeased. Just as he was about to help Wu Yu clear Nangongwei out of the room, Wu Yu shook his head at him and said, "Dishui, no need." The emperor glanced at Nangongwei, nodded, and said, "In that case, you can handle it yourself." When he said this, Bai Shenmo's face turned a little rosy, and Nangongwei said a few words in his ear. He must have gradually emerged from the shadow of the death of the Qingming Sword Emperor. The underworld sword had regained most of its combat power, and the look in Wu Yu's eyes was extremely gloomy. At this time, Nangongwei actually sacrificed a magic weapon. Although she did not have a Taoist weapon, the magic weapon Nine-Color Divine Phoenix Sword was almost the most terrifying super-spiritual magic weapon. Many sword masters' magic weapons and long swords were it is not so powerful. The hilt is made up of 9 pairs of phoenix wings of various colors stacked together. The flames rise from it, and the flames turn into phoenixes and fly around the blade, making a sharp chirping sound. Now Nangongwei will use that the 9-color Divine Phoenix Sword was pointed at Wu Yu. Needless to say, this sword already explained her attitude. At the same time, Bai Shenmo stepped forward and joined her with swords. The two must have practiced the method of combined attack. Now the water and fire are working together perfectly, and they feel invulnerable. Their combined combat power is far greater than that of one person alone. This undoubtedly brings the most terrifying challenge to Wu Yu. Nangongwei said, "You have to settle with me, you are powerful enough. I also admit that I underestimated you. But the matter between us does not require Xiao Mo to die for me, so it is better for you and me to solve it." She wanted Bai Shenmo to go down, but Bai Shenmo would rather die and said, "This is a duel between us men. It has nothing to do with you. I haven't been defeated yet." It was enough for the two of them to fight each other. Wu Yu pursed his lips. In fact, they would only force him to say a word. That is, "You all come together." Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 471. /U0026 and let's go together. /U0026 and when Wu Yu said this, he was already very calm and peaceful. /U0026 and bit was just this kind of indifferent attitude, but it added a kind of domineering. In fact, he had already defeated Bai Shenmo, and he knew that Bai Shenmo was not his opponent anyway. /U0026 and since Nangongwei was involved at this time, it would bring him a greater challenge. He had 10,000 courages to accept this challenge. /U0026 and Nangongwei was right. Wu Yu came to Shushan just to ask for clarification, but this matter could not be understood by asking alone. Only a battle of life and death could have a result. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. /U0026 and for many things, try not to rely on words if you can take action, because words cannot explain it clearly. /U0026 and only between life and death can there be true love. /U0026 and therefore, now when facing Bai Shenmo and Nangongwei holding swords together, or even facing him with two swords together, he was calm in his heart. Obviously, their combined power was terrible, but Wu Yu regarded this terribleness as a cruel battle test. /U0026 and brilliancy always makes people feel embarrassed. The person he once loved has now become his opponent, but Wu Yu has no reason to give in at this time. There is more determination in his eyes, and everyone sees his determination to win. /U0026 and after winning, there is no need to ask the result. In fact, all the torture he suffered on the day of exile was returned to him by Xuanhuan today. From then on, to the outside world, Wu Yu rose up by stepping on the geniuses of Xuanhuan, and no one could stop him. /U0026 Enphy's understanding is similar to the ending Wu Yu wanted. After all, he has figured it out that Nangongwei can no longer be suitable for him. When there is a crack between people, that crack will be like an ugly flesh worm, always separating the two people. No matter how patient they are, when they look at each other, they will first see the flesh worm, and the first feeling will always be disgust and disgust. /U0026 Nangongwei pointed the sword at herself today, which was a judgment and conclusion of Wu Yu, and also a complete end between the two. This was her answer to Wu Yu, and Wu Yu accepted it. /U0026 NB and today, I only need to defeat them. From now on, I am me, Xuanhuan is Xuanhuan, Nangongwei is Nangongwei, and there is no connection between everything. /U0026 Nth sword pointed at herself was very sharp. /U0026 Nban one side was the nine-colored divine fire, and on the other side was the abyss cold pool. The scorching heat and the coldness collided, but an incredible reaction was born, making them like a whole in battle, showing an effect beyond their limits. /U0026 Nband Wu Yu, one man and one stick, stood in the center of the battlefield of life and death. /U0026 Nban fact, the sword cultivators of Xuanhuan Xianmen now have a softer look. It must be said that they are full of awe for Wu Yu, especially after Wu Yu defeated Baishan Mo. At this time, Wu Yu let Nangongwei join the battle outside the rules. This heroic spirit and courage alone actually impressed many people. /U0026 and therefore, when many people curse Wu Yu, at least their hearts are not so smooth. /U0026 and nowadays, people are watching and breathing. Obviously, this battle will be much more exciting than the battle between Wu Yu and Baishan Mo alone. No one has seen how Wu Yu defeated Baishan Mo before, so in this case, the outcome of the battle, who will live and who will die, is really full of suspense. Is it Nangongwei who killed Wu Yu, or Wu Yu killed them? Or, will Nangongwei have the heart to kill Wu Yu, or will Wu Yu be ruthless to kill Nangongwei? /U0026 and at the moment when the cultivators are in chaos, the following battle is about to break out. Judging from the start of the battle, at least Baishan Mo and Nangongwei were not polite at all. /U0026 and boom. /U0026 and Nangongwei first used her magical power, the colorful phoenix wings. A pair of phoenix wings suddenly appeared behind her, burning with different nine-color flames on the colorful phoenix wings, which were much more mature than before. Between the flutters, the heat waves rolled, the thick purple palace energy surged, and people immediately understood that Nangongwei was not weaker than Baishan Mo. /U0026 and Shi and Baishan Mo stood side by side, with flames rolling around Nangongwei on the upper side and cold waves surging around Baishan Mo on the lower side, alternating between cold and hot to the extreme. /U0026 NB 9-layer divine fire domain. At this moment, Nangongwei used another great magical power. This was her second great magical power. When she used it, the flames around her rolled and extended, and a 9-layer sea of fire condensed around her. The 9 layers of flames were 9 colors. The outermost layer was red, followed by orange, yellow, and the innermost layer was white and black. This 9-layer divine fire domain is an important means of attack and killing. When attacking, the 9-layer divine fire can be attached to the attack, and when defending, it is not easy to break this 9-layer divine fire domain. /U0026 NB Underworld Sea Divine Domain. /U0026 NB at the same time, Baishan Mo used another magical power. In fact, he was suddenly defeated by Wu Yu just now, and many methods have not been used yet. /U0026 Np's magical power is very similar to the 9-layered divine fire realm. Baishan Mo was surrounded by a dark green ocean. He seemed to have turned into water and melted into the cold dark sea divine realm. The dark sea divine realm itself was like a deep sea monster, roaring from time to time. /U0026 and at this time, the 9-layered divine fire realm and the dark sea divine realm were actually connected together. /U0026 and when they touched, the world was in turmoil, and the two great magical powers suddenly erupted, and their power increased rapidly. Countless ice and flames rushed out in all directions. In the central position, you can see that the two great magical powers are spinning wildly. Not only defense, but also mutual attacks can be enhanced. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. /U0026 and sure enough, this is the combined attack method designed for them by the elders of Xuanhuan. The two combined can almost reach 3 times the attack effectiveness. /U0026 and in front of the two great magical powers, Wu Yu can no longer be as relaxed as before. /U0026 and however, this joint killing method will definitely not make him surrender. People want to see how Wu Yu will react to being attacked by the two of them. Anger or hatred. /U0026 and in front of Wu Yu, the 9-layered divine fire domain and the underworld sea divine domain are like a pair of huge eyes, one is dark green, and the other has 9 rings and 9 colors. This pair of eyes stared at Wu Yu fiercely. /U0026 and 2 outstanding geniuses who have not appeared in the Xuanhuan Immortal sect for a long time, the hope for the future, now attack at the same time, join forces to attack. The scene is shocking. /U0026 and but the problem is that their opponent is not a respected predecessor, but Wu Yu who was once abandoned by Xuanhuan. It is ironic that Wu Yu needs these two historic geniuses to besiege him. /U0026 and no one can think too much. Nangongwei and Baishan Mo cooperate almost perfectly. Now in their respective fields, the two are almost waving their swords synchronously. As the swords change, the two magical fields expand rapidly. /U0026 and B overturning the sea 10,000 swords. /U0026 and on the left, Baishan Mo's Qingming Emperor sword is indeed more violent. He uses a top Xuanhuan heaven and earth mystical art. Suddenly, the dark sea divine domain seems to explode. There is a vast sea gushing out from it. There is no sea water on the sea, only layers of sword energy. In a blink of an eye, the 10,000 sword energy, like an overturned sea, rushes out and makes a harsh roar. /U0026 and the cold air of the dark sea divine realm attached to the 10,000 sword chi covering the sea, and instantly dyed the endless waves dark green. /U0026 and the sword art of Xuanhuan is so sharp, domineering, and sharp. 10,000 sword chi whistled up, and Baishan Mo once again showed top lethality. /U0026 and of course, Nangongwei beside him was not weak at all. Although she did not have a Taoist weapon, she seemed to have performed another magical power before this. The name of the great magical power is Phoenix Nirvana. It is said that there are 3 levels. If you reach the first level, you can be Nirvana once in battle. By analogy, you can be Nirvana 3 times in a row in the 3rd level. It is equivalent to 3 rebirths. /U0026 and now in the 9-layer divine fire realm, Nangongwei's true appearance can no longer be seen. Instead, it seems to be a domineering and unparalleled phoenix bird. The ancient phoenix is a fairy beast like the dragon. Nangongwei has the blood of the phoenix, so it is natural that she can practice this magical power at a rapid pace. /U0026 and it is even said that if she cultivates to the level of becoming an immortal, it may not be impossible for her to truly become a fairy beast, the phoenix. /U0026 and bus. /U0026 and accompanied by Baishan Mo sea covering 10,000 swords, hundreds of thousands of feathers suddenly rushed out from the 9-layer divine fire domain. Those feathers had different colors and burned different flames. The same feature was that they were extremely sharp. These more than 100,000 feathers pierced through, and next to them was Baishan Mo Si covering 10,000 swords. Such a scene was quite shocking. /U0026 and at this time, Wu Yu was in front of the sea covering 10,000 swords and countless flaming feathers. They cooperated very well. When they were intertwined, water and fire were compatible, and the collision produced a more terrifying destructive force. /U0026 and in front of Wu Yu, it seemed like a destroyed world. /U0026 and wherever he went, the mountains were directly turned into ashes. /U0026 and after joining forces, they actually had such power, which really made millions of sword cultivators and the Yanhuang immortal army admire them. In fact, they knew that Baishan Mo and Nangang Wei were not weak at all. Their strength was worthy of their current fame, but Wu Yu was always more terrifying than imagined. /U0026 and just like now, everyone was worried about him again, but he was calm and even sneered. /U0026 and in those fiery eyes, everything could not block his sight. He saw Nangang Wei and Baishan Mo. When Baishan Mo attacked, his eyes were full of infinite murderous intent, and Nangang Wei, although not so strong in murderous intent, but no matter what, she still cooperated with others and attacked him. /U0026 and it's over. Wu Yu felt that she gave an answer. /U0026 and so, he also made a choice. /U0026 and in the blink of an eye, he changed his body and directly achieved the immortal ape transformation. /U0026 and then, he plucked off a large amount of golden hair and blew it lightly. A shocking scene appeared. Around Wu Yu, the golden hairs changed one by one. In the blink of an eye, they turned into thousands of golden apes. They were agitated and violent. They clenched their fists in one hand and held swords in the other. They stood beside Wu Yu and all raised their magic weapons and long swords. /U0026 and all of them were super spiritual magic weapons. /U0026 and sudden appearance of these thousands of clones made Wu Yu conquer the heroes again. /U003C/C